We've just had our first drive of Kia's new EV4 electric sedan, and we have plenty to say. But do our thoughts even matter? As an entry-level electric car, the EV4's success or failure will likely hinge on price. Unfortunately, we have no idea what the 2026 Kia EV4's price will be, and with tariffs and EV tax incentives up in the air, we suspect Kia doesn't, either. We drove the new EV4 in Korea, where it's already on sale with a base price of 42.6 million won, around $31,000, so keep that figure in mind as we tell you what we liked about the EV4, and what we didn't doubt. We're of two minds when it comes to the 2026 Kia EV4. We love the way it drives, but the packaging and styling leaves something to be desired. Mom taught us the best way to have your criticism heard is to begin with a compliment, so we'll lead with the good before we talk about where the EV4 gets it wrong. As an entry-level electric vehicle, the EV4's powertrain is modest, with a single 201 horsepower motor driving the front wheels. A dual-motor version will eventually join the lineup, though Kia has not said when. Kia estimates the front-drive EV4 will get to 60 miles per hour in around 7.5 seconds, which seems like an unexceptional number, particularly by EV standards. But being electric, the single motor delivers its 209 lb-ft of torque punch the instant you call on it. And punch it does. There's no hesitation, no waiting for a downshift, you just point, and the EV4 shoots. A good portion of our drive was in Seoul's freeway traffic, which gives Los Angeles's epic rush hour a run for its money. The good news is the EV4 proved willing to dart into any gap we wished to call our own. This, and not the liberal agenda so many letter writers accuse us of having, is why we're crazy about EVs. We like quick cars, and even slow EVs are quick. The EV4 is also remarkably refined thanks to a comfortable ride and quiet demeanor. Kia did not skimp on sound insulation. Important in an electric car, where there's no engine note to hide road and wind noise, and the EV4 is commendably quiet. It's a bit of a brain blender. You don't normally associate this level of refinement with an entry-level car. Kia had us head into the hills above Seoul to enjoy some great curvy roads, which we found plagued by 30 km per hour, 18.6 miles per hour, speed limits and drivers who obey them. Still, by letting the gaps open and taking advantage of a few obliging highway cloverleafs, we did get a basic feel for the EV4's demeanor. The steering is responsive if a bit heavy, better than being too light, and there's no shortage of grip combined with a commendable lack of body roll. We'll see how the EV4 does when we test it here at home, but given our experience with other cars based on the Hyundai/Kia eGMP platform, we expect the numbers to be good. Now, we're not suggesting you judge the entire EV4 on its low roof or its silly center console design. Rather, we're trying to illustrate that function has taken a back seat here to fashion. Speaking of back seat, that, too, suffers from the EV4's high floor. Although Kia will no doubt brag about the legroom measurement, the seat is too close to the floor and there's no space to get your toes under the front seats, so it all feels less roomy and comfortable than a tape measure suggests. What we have here is a strange-looking car with a cramped interior that offers a lovely, refined driving experience and useful long-range ability. Like many cars, it's an imperfect compromise, but we know buyers will put up with a lot for a bargain. As we mentioned earlier, the EV4's base price in Korea is $31,000, and a top-of-the-range GT line model with the big battery, a sunroof, premium paint, Harman Kardon stereo, a comprehensive head-up display, and Kia's outstanding advanced driver assistance system, ADAS, lists for around $38,500. Were Kia to maintain that pricing in the US, the top-of-the-line EV4 would just undercut the brand's current entry-level EV, the Niro, and it would swoop in underneath the $33,000 Hyundai Kona Electric, a taller SUV without the EV4's interior space problems. Kia is part of the Hyundai Group, but the two brands operate as competitors. $31,000 is a great price point for people who are already sold on EVs, those who understand that driving an electric car means never paying for gas or oil changes. Your electricity bill goes up, of course, but likely nowhere near as much as if you were still paying for gas. But for those considering an EV for the first time, a $30,000 price point might seem a bit steep considering how many good cars and SUVs start for less than $25,000. We often hedge our first drives by saying we must wait until we can test the car on our home turf. But in the case of the 2026 Kia EV4, our hedge must wait until we see pricing. That might not occur until close to the EV4's fourth quarter 2025 on-sale date. We'll keep our fingers crossed, because the new EV4, for all its shortcomings, has great prospects as an entry-level EV. If Kia gets the price low enough, we expect to see a lot of these cars on the road. The EV4 will be available with two power pack options, 58.3 or 81.4 kilowatt-hour batteries. The former is expected to deliver 235 miles of EPA-rated range, and the latter an impressive 330 miles. To keep the EV4's cost down, the car uses a 400-volt architecture instead of the 800-volt system in other EGMP vehicles, which means longer fast charging times, 10 to 80% in 29 minutes with the small battery and 31 minutes with the big battery. That's slower than 800-volt Kias like the EV6, which does the deed in 18 minutes or less, but on par with the bulk of lower-cost electric cars now on the market. Plug into your 240-volt home charger, and 10 to 100% should take 5 hours with the small battery and 7 with the big one, an easy overnight power-up. Here's what we didn't like about the 2026 Kia EV4. First, there's the strange styling. Granted, beauty is in the eye of the beholder, so you might disagree, but Kia thinks an unusual look will attract younger buyers. To us, however, the EV4's styling isn't as much unusual as it is unfortunate. The EV4 reminds us of the time, 25 or 30 years ago, when designing unattractive cars seemed to be South Korea's national pastime. That era ended when Kia hired designer Peter Schreier away from Audi. Schreier has since moved to a new position in the Hyundai Kia conglomerate, but the EV4 makes us think perhaps his work is not yet done. The EV4 is much better looking on the inside than the outside, but the cabin is not without sin. The dashboard design is sound, with a panoramic twin-screen arrangement we've come to know and love in other Kias, as well as crisp screens and high-quality, and rather imaginative, trim. Happily, Kia has given up on the silly idea of using the same set of buttons and dials for climate and stereo controls, as seen in several of its cars. As with the K4, the two systems now get separate controls. Praise be! The problem with the new EV4's interior is that it feels more cramped than a typical compact sedan, an issue stemming from the combination of a high floor and low roof. The former is due to the battery, which, as in most EVs, is located beneath the car. The latter is down to the aerodynamic shape, which yields a drag coefficient of 0.23, the same as a Tesla Model Y and 0.04 lower than a Toyota Prius. Look at the spec sheet, and you'll see the EV4 has only a smidge less headroom than a K4 sedan, a smidge, in this case, being just less than half an inch, but headroom is measured from the seat's hip point, not the car's floor. The EV4's seats sit closer to the floor than in most cars, though perhaps it would be more precise to say the floor is closer to the seat, which compromises the seating position. Allow me to switch from the royal we to first-person singular for just a moment. I'm 5'6", midway between the heights of the average man and the average woman. The downside is I'm easy pickings in a bar fight. The upside is that I can find a satisfactory seating position in most cars. In the EV4, when I adjusted the seat to my preferred comfy leg angle position, I found myself looking through the top of the windshield. When I dropped the seat to better center my view, I felt like I was sitting on the floor, but without enough room to stretch my legs out and still feel as if I was in the same zip code as the dashboard. Obviously, this is what driving is like for my 6-foot-plus colleagues, but I am not a tall man, and no car should make me feel like I am. I don't have these problems in a Tesla Model 3, which has a roofline 2.5 inches lower than the EV4's. There are other questionable design decisions, like how the EV4 utilizes the space between the front seats. This new Kia has a nice half-length padded armrest, which hinges upward to reveal another armrest. At least that's the best description I can come up with for the hard-surfaced panel underneath, other than an architect's model of a diving board. Why did Kia bother to hinge the padded part? Perhaps the designers thought someone might try out the armrest and think, "Gosh, that's just a bit too comfortable." Nota bene, Gen Z, not only does Kia think you have no aesthetic sense, the company also thinks you're masochists. The diving board itself does not hinge upward, but instead slides forward and back, allowing EV4 owners to choose between blocking most or all the open storage cubby beneath it. It only blocks access, mind you. Thieves can still see the contents from outside the car regardless of the diving board's position. The cubby itself is barely big enough to contain a box of tissues or a couple of phones, never mind a purse, even a small one, or the mind-boggling collection of hair clips, hair bands, pens, phone charging cables, loose change, business cards, napkins, new and used, and half-eaten granola bars someone who will remain nameless but might be my wife stores in the center console of her Mazda. Oops, first person again. Sorry. Surely, most car owners would be better served by a simple box with a hinged, padded cover on it than this strange contraption fitted to the EV4.